Seems like. I guess they're waiting for the people on the other side of the plane to get off. I think there's some, handicapped people. I think.
Who's talking? Is it you, Russ, or Okay. And just so you know, I do have video return, so I can see everything we're airing. If you need me, if you need me to see. Okay. And just so you're aware, I open in 10 minutes warning, and in 5 minutes out, 5 minutes, and then 1 minute. I'm not going to say that on live TV.
Piden los restos del expresidente Jimmy Carter en Washington DC, luego de una procesión que atraviesa todo el centro de la ciudad. Se piden los restos del expresidente Jimmy Carter en Washington DC, luego de una procesión que atraviesa el centro de la ciudad. Los restos permanecerán en el Capitolio hasta el jueves.
Ready. Down. Ready. Step. Set. Ready. Pace. Lock time. Left about. More. Ready. Step.
saluting as well. You see the honor guard with the presidential flag. They're accompanying the casket, and there we have the Capitol in the background. And the procession is being led by a horse with a riderless saddle that signifies that its master, the leader, is no longer with us. There we see the crowds that frankly have been out there in pretty cold weather and with some fairly significant and appropriate security measures.
That we're watching today.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. That was really the first time that had happened. And so now this is, I would say that this is bookending a life wonderfully lived as you look at not just the honor guard, but the family, all who are able following that caisson up Pennsylvania Avenue. One of the things that was very special this morning, you asked earlier about what does this mean to the midshipmen that were there, and we had a chance to speak to one young lady, and she talked to the fact that her father had been a midshipman at the U.S. Naval Academy when President Carter was inaugurated, and he marched in the inaugural parade following the inauguration. So how special is it for her to be involved in the ceremony that marks how we will do our final honors for the president?
We're getting ready to hand over coverage to our colleagues here, John, and I know that you have, along with so many of people in the Navy and volunteers, but so many midshipmen and just career people in the military have been working for this moment. It is happening now. We'll give you about 30, 40 seconds here for your final thoughts on this moment and what it has meant to the Navy.
I think that what I would want to reflect on, and it's not just the Navy, and it's not just the Naval Academy, but I think that we as a nation, when we look at our citizens, what we all aspire to are the kind of traits that President Carter said the Naval Academy and the Navy started him off with: courage, self-sacrifice, idealism, self-discipline. He was relentless. He was dedicated. He tried to do things that made a difference. And he was ready to work many times with people that might not have agreed to him. So as you look down now at your Navy memorial, I just think that it's an incredible honor for us to have been involved here. I would invite all to come and to see more about President Carter's life that we'll be playing in the theater, to look at some of the artifacts that we have, to sign the condolence book. And if you can't make it this time, please come to your Navy memorial some other time.
John, thank you so much for being with us today on the coverage. President Carter certainly lived a model life, that's for sure.
2 hours that we've been and continuing coverage here of this final goodbye, remembering the 39th President, Jimmy Carter. Marissa, it has been an honor to carry this coverage with you here. A girl from Georgia who knows none better than what this legacy means now in Washington, D.C. We continue our coverage right now with
You know what? If I step this way, you get...
ceremonial at ease. Ceremonial at ease. Ready, step. 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 Ready, step.
us pray. Eternal Father, strong to save, whose arms have bound the restless waves, we thank you for the inspiration of a consequential and laudable life as we celebrate the legacy of James Earl Carter, Jr., the 39th President of the United States. We proclaim your generosity to this nation and world for giving us the gift of someone with the ethical congruence to be salt and light to his generation. Lord, he made the world more palatable. We thank you for his passion for integrity, his commitment to leave the world better than he found it, and his exemplary love for his precious Rosalind. Inspired by his great life, teach us to know you more clearly, to love you more dearly, and to follow you more nearly each day. We pray in your matchless name. Amen.
Madam Vice President, Mr. Speaker, Leader Schumer, Leader Jeffries, Jack, Chip, Jeff, Amy, and other members of the Carter family, and distinguished guests. Today we gather to begin a final farewell to Jimmy Carter, Navy veteran, peanut farmer, Governor of Georgia, and President of the United States. Sunday school teacher, Nobel Prize winner, advocate for peace and human rights, and first and foremost, a faithful servant of his Creator and his fellow man. In a commencement speech he delivered at Liberty University back in 2018, President Carter told a story about going on a mission to Massachusetts back in his younger days under the auspices of the Southern Baptist Convention. During that trip, President Carter was impressed by the success of a fellow missionary in winning souls to Christ. And so as the mission was winding down, he asked him what made him so successful. He was a little embarrassed by my question, President Carter recalled, but then he finally said, I try to have two loves in my heart. One love is for God, and the other love I have in my heart is for the person who happens to be in front of me at any particular time. It was a statement, President Carter said, that he never forgot. I think it's fair to say that it's also a statement he lived by. President Carter's term as president ended in 1981. And for the remainder of his life, the longest post-presidency of any American president ever, he focused on making the lives of his fellow men better. That meant things like the Carter Center, which, among other things, works for the eradication of disease in some of the poorest areas of the globe. And it meant things like his work with Habitat for Humanity to provide affordable housing for those in need. And when I say his work with Habitat for Humanity, I do mean his work. Jimmy Carter knew that his status as a former president could bring attention to good causes. It's why he encouraged Habitat to make use of his name and image. But simply lending his name, or maybe attending a gala or two, wasn't Jimmy Carter's style. He was here to get down in the weeds and the dirt And he did that literally on numerous habitat builds, including one back in 1994 in Eagle Butte in my home state of South Dakota. Well into his 90s, he could be found with his hard hat and tools on construction sites doing the practical work required to get families into homes. The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. And Jimmy Carter did his very best to live according to the calling of his Lord and Savior. Today, I join all Americans in mourning President Carter and remembering his example. But I rejoice in the thought that he, together with his beloved wife, Rosalind, is now before the face of his Father.
To the family, to Jack and Chip and Jeff and Amy, the entire Carter family, Vice President Harris, members of the Cabinet, Leader Thune, my colleagues in Congress, and my fellow citizens. We meet in this sacred hall of self-government to honor an extraordinary man, a man who modeled the virtues of service and citizenship, as well as any other American. Surrounding us are the statues of those who gave their time, their energy, and their lives for the good of America. Before us lays a man who now joins their midst as a patriot, a veteran, a humanitarian, and the 39th President of the United States. When Jimmy Carter walked out on the east front of the Capitol and took his oath of office, I was just 4 years old, and he's the first president that I remember. Looking back, it's obvious now to me as an adult why he captured everyone's attention. Jimmy Carter was a member of the greatest generation. He lived through the Great Depression. He did that on a farm in rural Georgia. He knew the value of a dollar, and he modeled thrift his entire life. As long as he was in office, he hated government waste. His father, an Army veteran of the World War I era, taught patriotism to his children. And eventually his son, this young man from Plains, followed his father's example of self-sacrifice, and he joined the Naval Academy in the middle of World War II. In the Army, Lieutenant Carter learned from the legendary Admiral Rickover to always do his best as he served on the first fleet of nuclear submarines. It's telling that today the USS Jimmy Carter, a top-secret attack submarine, now roams the oceans, bearing the name of the only president who served in such close quarters. President Carter's life, his selfless service, his fight against cancer, and his lasting contributions to his fellow man are all truly remarkable. Whether he was in the White House or in his post-presidential years, as was discussed, President Carter was willing to roll up his own sleeves to serve and get the job done. We all know about his work with Habitat for Humanity, and that was mentioned. And the origin story goes that it was in 1984, when he first became aware of the work. He was in New York for a friend's anniversary. Millard Fuller, the founder of the fledgling charity at the time, called President Carter and asked if he wanted to visit a site in Brooklyn during his trip. President Carter agreed, and he found his way down to the Lower East Side. Standing on the roof of a dilapidated building, he looked out on the wealth of Wall Street to the south and to the power of Midtown Manhattan to the north. And then he looked down, and he saw an image he'd never forget. An elderly woman cooking breakfast over an open fire in the rubble of the building, there in the heart of the richest city in the world. The Habitat for Humanity worker that was there with him turned to President Carter and said, if there's anything that you can do, we would take it. He said, if there's anything I can do, let me know. The worker said, well, maybe you can send some volunteer carpenters from your church. It was the very next day that President Carter called Habitat for Humanity and told them he was going to send some carpenters, all right, and that he himself would be one of them. And thus began his famous tradition of donating 1 week every year to build and restore homes for his fellow Americans. It's remarkable to think that one of the 45 men who has served as president and one of the only 13 who held the role in the nuclear age would humble himself to such service. We all know that his care for humanity didn't stop at building homes. In the face of illness, President Jimmy Carter brought life-saving medicine. In the face of conflict, he brokered peace. In the face of discrimination, he reminded us that we are all made in the image of God. And if you were to ask him why he did it all, he would likely point to his faith. I'm reminded of his admonition to, quote, live our lives as though Christ were coming this afternoon, and of his amazing personal reflection. Quote, if I have one life and one chance to make it count for something. We all agree that he certainly did. So today in these hallowed halls of our republic, we honor President Carter, his family, and his enduring legacy that he leaves, not only upon this nation, but upon the world.
Leader Thune, Speaker Johnson, Leader Schumer, Leader Jeffries, members of Congress, and distinguished guests. It is an honor to be with you this afternoon, and to Jack, Chip, Jeff, Amy, and Jason, and all the other members of the Carter family. On behalf of the American people, Doug and I offer our deepest condolences. Being with you today, I'm reminded of the enduring words of a favorite hymn. May the works I have done speak for me. Today we gather to celebrate the life of a man whose works will echo for generations to come. A man from Plains, Georgia, who grew up without electricity or running water and served as the 39th President of the United States of America, and lived every day of his long life in service to the people. President James Earl Carter, Jr. So I was in middle school when Jimmy Carter was elected president, and I vividly recall how my mother admired him, how much she admired his strength of character, his honesty, his integrity, his work ethic and determination, his intelligence, and his generosity of spirit. We have heard much today and in recent days about President Carter's impact in the 4 decades after he left the White House. Rightly so. Jimmy Carter established a new model for what it means to be a former president, and leaves an extraordinary post-presidential legacy. From founding the Carter Center, which has helped advance global human rights and alleviate human suffering, to his public health work in Latin America and Africa, to his tireless advocacy for peace and democracy. And Jimmy Carter was a president of the United States who was ahead of his time. He was the first president of the United States to have a comprehensive energy policy, including providing some of the first federal support for clean energy. He also passed over a dozen major pieces of legislation regarding environmental protection, and more than doubled the size of America's national parks, including protecting our beloved redwoods in my home state of California. He was a president who, between the years of 1977 and 1981, appointed more Black Americans to the federal bench than all of his predecessors combined, and appointed 5 times as many women. And in the wake of Watergate, Jimmy Carter passed historic ethics legislation to help rebuild America's faith in government. Jimmy Carter, as president, was also a respected global leader. To be sure, the years of his presidency were not without international crises or challenges, but his legacy of global leadership is well established. In Asia, he instituted full diplomatic relations with China, which he would later call one of the most historically significant accomplishments of his presidency. And his legacy lives on in the Middle East because, do recall, in the decades before Jimmy Carter became president, Israel and Egypt had been at war numerous times. Few thought peace could be achieved between them. Yet Jimmy Carter did that. Through his persistence and perseverance, through his unshakable belief in the power of American diplomacy, he secured the Camp David Accords, one of the most significant and durable peace treaties since World War II. And throughout the world, Jimmy Carter elevated the role of human rights in America's foreign policy priorities and uplifted the importance of civil society in doing that work. Jimmy Carter was a forward-looking president with a vision for the future. Consider his establishment of the Department of Energy in 1977, which anticipated the central role it would play in addressing the climate crisis. His creation of FEMA in 1979, which enabled our nation to mobilize a national response to disasters, which has helped countless communities rebuild and recover. And his founding of the Department of Education later that year, which elevated public education institutions and increased national standards for the education of America's children and future leaders. Jimmy Carter was that all too rare example of a gifted man who also walks with humility, modesty, and grace. Recall the stories from the 1976 campaign about how he slept in the homes of his supporters to share a meal with them at their table and to listen to what was on their minds. How on their first trip for Habitat for Humanity, Jimmy and Rosalind rode the bus with the other volunteers. And when the group stopped for the night to stay at a local church, Jimmy and Rosalind gave their private room to a young couple who had put off their honeymoon to join the trip. And with the other volunteers, they then slept on the floor of the church basement. And then, of course, his work to eradicate the vicious guinea worm disease that once disabled millions of people a year. It was one of the Carter Center's greatest triumphs. And Jimmy Carter, of course, given his nature, attributed its success not to his own leadership, but to the thousands of everyday Africans who were on the ground doing the work. Throughout his life and career, Jimmy Carter retained a fundamental decency and humility. James Earl Carter, Jr. loved our country. He lived his faith, he served the people, and he left the world better than he found it. And in the end, Jimmy Carter's work and those works speak for him, louder than any tribute we can offer. May his life be a lesson for the ages and a beacon for the future. May God bless President Jimmy Carter, and may God bless the United States of America.
My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my
Would you pray with me? Holy and loving God, receive into your eternal joy your good and faithful servant, James Earl Carter, Jr. Reward him richly and grant him your own well done for his humble and honorable life, worth far more than the many accolades and attributions we have gladly given. May President Jimmy Carter now rest from his labors and be received into the embrace of your everlasting arms. And when the ceremony and fanfare due this man of character and compassion fades into history, when the processions and parades have dispersed, leave with us, O God, the lasting impression and inspiration of a life well lived. Ignite in us the same passion for public service, the courage to champion the underserved, the strength to bear as faithfully the weight of the call to which you have called each one of us, to do as justly, to love mercy as unreservedly, to walk as humbly with you as we have witnessed in the testimony of President Jimmy Carter's life of faithfulness. We offer our prayers in the name of the one whom Jimmy Carter would have known to be the first and the last, the Alpha and the Omega, his rock and our Redeemer. Amen.
The DMV. Another round of winter weather could be on its way. The Fox 5 weather team has a look ahead. And devastating moments for local pet owners. 2 dogs electrocuted on a sidewalk. We're taking you live to the scene as your news at 6 starts now.
And first off the top here at 6, disruptions continue across the D.C. region. This after this week's major snowstorm.
School systems across our area have already started canceling classes for a 3rd straight day. It comes as some people struggle with roads still blanketed with snow. This is video shot from our crews in Maryland earlier today. That snow and ice causing issues for drivers. And taking a live look outside at the conditions here at 6. This is a look from our Fox 5 Skycam at the wharf. Traffic moving there on the highways. Most of those major highways clear at this hour. Skies also more clear today, but more snow could be on the way.
That's right, and we have more team coverage for you tonight. Bob Barnard is live in Silver Spring, Maryland, with how people there are holding up.
But we start with our Caitlin Roth live in the Weather Center with a look at that forecast. Hi, Caitlin.
Hi, Kenneth and Angie. Yeah, the snow stopped a long time ago, late last night, but the impacts really carried over into today, and it sounds like Wednesday as well. And quite frankly, we'll probably have impacts all week and into the weekend because of how cold it is and will remain. This is a very stubborn cold pattern that's reinforced by the snow on the ground. That snowpack makes everything colder and keeps things colder. So as we look at today's high temperatures, it was a struggle, even with sunshine, to do a lot of melting. 35 was the high temperature in D.C., 34 Dulles and BWI, and our average high is 45. So you can see that this is below normal, even for early to mid-January. We've got 7 inches of snow on the ground here in D.C., so we've got a ways to go when it comes to melting. Even more than that to our south. Highest snowfall amount locally from yesterday was 12 inches in Chesapeake Beach, Maryland. Here's a look at temperatures right now, upper 20s to low 30s. It's been a gusty day, so those wind chills are down in the teens and low 20s. It feels like 19 right now in D.C. Radar is quiet. There are some snow showers up in Pennsylvania, but luckily we will be dry for at least the next few days, so we won't have any anything additional on top of our snowpack for now. 21 degrees tonight for that low temperature, and tomorrow with clouds rolling in, we won't even have the sun to promote any melting. Temperatures will also be right at or maybe even below the freezing mark all afternoon. So it remains frozen out there. Coldest yet to come on Thursday with highs in the 20s. A little bit more snow possible by the weekend. I'll have more on those scenarios coming up in my full 7-day. Kenneth and Angie, back to you.
Caitlin, we'll see you in a bit. And our team coverage continues tonight with a look at how things are going in Maryland.
That's right. Monday snow having some lingering impacts there. And Fox 5's Bob Barnard is live in Silver Spring with more on that. So the sights and sounds. What you seeing, Bob?
Well, hey, Angie and Kenneth, it's really no wonder that Montgomery County, Prince George's County here in Maryland, Loudoun County, Fairfax County in Northern Virginia are canceling classes again tomorrow because you've got streets like this one behind me here in Silver Spring that are still covered in snow. It's slush, it's icy, really too dangerous for children to walk to bus stops, for school buses to navigate some of these hills. It's all hands on deck today as brothers Leo and Ellis Tillman help clear their family's driveway. Father Seth is removing Monday's snow from their idled cars.
Yeah, we feel lucky because we got a all-wheel drive car, so we're going to try and make it down to the sledding hill today. Yeah, you know, it'd be great if the plows came. It'd be great if MCPS opened up tomorrow.
The Tillman Silver Spring Street is one of many Montgomery County roadways that at this point still hadn't seen a snowplow.
My street was not touched at all. I don't know what's the method to their madness, but I wish they would have cleaned my street. Please come and clean it. So I had extra work today.
The untreated streets a nuisance for delivery drivers and others who need to be out here.
Because it's kind of making it difficult for us to get those deliveries done.
Our street didn't get plowed until like 8:30 last night, and so it's still pretty icy. This is my first time out all day. My kids are driving me crazy.
Yes, it's another day of no school throughout the state of Maryland. And for MCPS, tomorrow will be day 3 schools are closed. It's been tough for adults as well.
It's tough because between work and this big of a driveway, it's hard to get it all done. So, yeah, it's not that encouraging to hear more's on its way.
Montgomery County's DOT Director Chris Conklin says he expects the treating and plowing of all residential streets should be completed this evening or overnight.
It's been a challenging storm, even though the snow accumulations weren't that much. The temperatures were very cold and the precipitation was very persistent yesterday. So we kept having to retreat and replow areas on our emergency routes, which caused us to be a little bit slower in getting to residential streets than we had wanted.
In the meantime, adventurous souls like Mark Ombre are taking advantage of the unplowed roadways.
I live in Woodside Park and ski out the door and ski back and keep, save the shoveling for some other time.
Now, Montgomery County's Chris Conklin says that there are about 25% of the county's neighborhood streets that haven't been attended to yet. Again, they hope to do that in the coming hours, and that it's probably a good thing schools are closed tomorrow because the trucks can get in here without having to compete with kids and school buses. Guys?
That is a good point. Thank you, Bob. Now, with the temperatures staying low, the district is reminding people and you about its warming centers out there. There are nearly 20 shelters open 24/7 during cold weather emergencies. Outreach teams are now working to find people who might need a place to stay this week. They are urging anybody who sees somebody in need of a shelter to contact 311.
Tonight, people across the country are remembering former President Jimmy Carter, his body now lying in state at the U.S. Capitol.
Carter passed away at the age of 100 late last year. Today, his body was taken from Georgia to the district, making a stop at the U.S. Navy Memorial before finally going inside the Capitol Rotunda. Tom Fitzgerald is on the Hill tonight, and Fitz, a lot of people are taking part in the ceremonies today.
A remarkable moment when history and herald come together here in the nation's capital tonight. Already people are lining up to walk into the Capitol later on this evening to pay their respects to President Carter. Many people saying former president's public persona was that as being a man of the people, and they felt that it was right that the people came here tonight to render honors to him. This was the scene earlier this afternoon. President Carter's casket was brought to Washington on the plane commonly used as Air Force One, but in this case was dubbed Special Mission 39, a horse-drawn carriage, a caisson for the U.S. Army Military District of Washington's Old Guard, rendered honors along with a military honor guard representing all branches of the United States military. Then the slow, long steps of the United States Capitol as Carter's casket was brought up the very same steps that he was inaugurated on back in January 1977 as the 39th President of the United States. Carter's casket then entered the rotunda, where it now sits on a funeral bearer which originally was created for the funeral of Abraham Lincoln and has since served presidential funerals, including John F. Kennedy and Ronald Reagan. Right now, there is a funeral service going on inside the rotunda. A lot of the people who came down here today say they wanted to honor the president's service, but most importantly, his years since leaving the White House.
You know, countless good things he's done. So I'm here to do some volunteering.
Oh, yeah, I think Jimmy Carter was a great president. He did a lot for the country where I'm originally from, as well, in Guyana.
Just a wonderful person. Just made me travel all morning so far. Still trying to get there.
Well, here's a live look inside the rotunda now as family and friends and members of Congress, the United States Supreme Court, and the executive branch are beginning to file past the casket tonight. We're expecting within an hour and a half or so that this viewing is going to be opened up to members of the general public. Here where we are on East Capitol Street and 2nd Street, that line is already forming and heading down for blocks already. However, this line is going to remain, we're told, till midnight tonight. It will reopen at 7 a.m. U.S. Capitol Police reminding people they will be passing through security screening. No personal items like flowers are going to be allowed. Electronic devices will have to remain in the off position. No camera taking or recording is going to be allowed. They are asking people also to use public transportation to get down here because of the number of blocked off streets and, frankly, the security that has been in place for weeks. Reminder, you can watch all of this right now on the Fox Local app. We're live on the Hill tonight. We'll send it back into you.
Fitz, thank you. New this hour, the man who exploded a Tesla Cybertruck outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas used generative AI to help plan his attack. This according to Las Vegas police that say Matthew Livelsberger used ChatGPT to get information on explosive targets, ammunition, and fireworks. Livelsberger, an active duty Army Green Beret, fatally shot himself before the truck exploded last week. He allegedly wanted it to be a wake-up call for the country.
President-elect Trump took questions today in Mar-a-Lago, making a number of headlines, including floating the idea of taking control of Panama Canal and Greenland. Trump declared both territories vital for U.S. national security, and he refused to say if he would use military force to take control of them. Hours before the body of the late President Carter landed in D.C. to lie in state, Trump blasted him for giving the Panama Canal back to Panama.
It might be that you'll have to do something. Look, the Panama Canal is vital to our country. He thought giving away the Panama Canal was a good thing. I think it cost him the election.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump Jr. landed in Greenland today. No word on what specific meetings he will have there. Trump will take office in 13 days. Meanwhile, a federal judge has temporarily blocked the release of a special counsel's investigations into the president-elect. Jack Smith says his team is finalizing a 2-volume report. Trump's defense lawyers are trying to block the release. Meanwhile, the president-elect has lost his latest attempt at delaying this week's sentencing in his criminal hush money case. In a hearing, an emergency hearing that is, Trump's lawyers argue the incoming president should get immunity from criminal proceedings. His sentencing is scheduled for Friday.
Well, still to come, an assault spree at a local shopping center. A man tries to attack people with a machete. We have all the details on this case ahead at 6:30.
Also banning cell phones in schools. The debate moves from Virginia to Maryland, what one lawmaker is proposing.
And a dispute in Prince George's County shutting down multiple Metro bus stops. The impact this is going to have when we return. A tragic situation out of the district, prompting safety concerns for pet owners.
Yeah, it appears 2 dogs were electrocuted on a sidewalk in Northwest D.C. Our Sharon Roger live tonight tracking the details. Sharon.
Angie, Kenneth, it's so heartbreaking to think that these dog owners were simply walking their dogs right here on 19th Street in D.C. when in a matter of minutes, these dogs were apparently electrocuted and at least one of them died here on scene. I spoke to a man, a total stranger, who happens to own a dog who was on the 5th floor of this building right here behind me, who says that he heard the dog's cries. He ran down to help the dog, only to feel the electric shocks himself. Take a listen.
I assumed that the animal had salt on his paws, so I came down with a thing of water and I was going to help clean the paws. But at that point, the dog wasn't moving, and I bent down and felt something sharp in my hand. And happened again when I was trying to feel for the pulse of the dog. And then when it happened a third time, all of a sudden it dawned on me, oh my God, there's current in the ground.
Yeah, that is so wild. That happened around 4 o'clock yesterday. Pepco workers have been on scene here since this morning in bitter cold conditions, working to resolve the issue. Now, one source told me that the sidewalk may have been electrified due to an underground cable issue. But again, Pepco has not confirmed a cause. Dr. Stern says the dog that died later at a hospital was a yellow lab mix named Chili. D.C. police say hours later, around 7:30 p.m. last night, another dog owner called saying their dog was electrocuted in this same place. Sadly, that boxer died on scene. 2 incidents raising safety concerns. I spoke to the Humane Rescue Alliance, who, like all of us, are waiting for answers.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like this. It's really tragic for obviously the animals and their owners. Also, frankly, it's terrifying for the public in general.
Well, yes, I had no idea anything like this could happen. I have no idea how you would know it was happening. It certainly makes you fearful when you're taking the dog out.
Yeah, Dr. Stern tells me that after that incident that he witnessed yesterday, he held his dog a little tighter last night. Listen, there was a big response here. Fire and EMS were out here. MPD were out here. Pepco was out here working. But we still don't have answers from Pepco as to what exactly caused this. Was this an isolated situation or a bigger issue that raises concerns? Guys.
All right, Sharon, tragic details there. Thank you. Let's turn our attention back to the weather now. Live look outside. You still see all that snow on the ground there, but the roads are clear there in Fairfax.
Yeah, it's funny because we did get some sunshine today. It was no doubt a bright day, but didn't do too much to help melt that snow. Caitlin Roth here with another look at the stubborn forecast, which she has coined it, because it seems like when it comes to the freeze, it ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, but I want to give Fairfax County a round of applause, at least for this intersection, how well they have cleared their roads and sidewalks.
You're right. Hey, good point.
Very
Those
important.
piles are good. People are moving great.
I also needed sunglasses today.
Yeah, you did, for a couple reasons.
Yeah.
Because the sun was so bright, and it's even brighter when it reflects off the snowpack. But also, it was so windy. It was kind of blowing that snow around, too. So a lot of hazards out there, despite the fact that the snow night and it was sunny. We did a little bit of melting, but not much. Live look outside this evening, and we're still in recovery mode from yesterday's snow, which ended up bringing D.C. 7 inches, our biggest snowfall since 2019. And we will continue to be in this freeze, refreeze cycle as we go through the rest of the week. We're kind of deeply entrenched in the Arctic air, and it is not budging anytime soon. So more ice concerns tonight. Cold but dry again tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. We are watching the weekend closely for some additional snow possible late Friday night into Saturday morning. So just to give you an idea of how snow deprived we've been in recent years, this was our 3rd biggest snowfall of the past 10 years. So a decade long. And the biggest storm, of course, was 2016, that blizzard that brought us 17.8 inches, one of our biggest snowstorms ever in D.C. You do have to go back to 2019, the last time we got more than yesterday's snow. That was 10 inches. And we surpassed 3 years ago January of 22, where we got 6.9. Back in 2015, we got 5 inches. So there just haven't been a lot of snowstorms in recent years. Temperatures right now in the upper 20s and low 30s. We're on our way back down to a very cold night. There's a few flurries near Hagerstown. Otherwise, snow showers have remained well off to our north and west. You can see them coming off the lakes. And the lake effect snow will continue as long as we have these cold Arctic winds blowing out of the north and west. No shortage of cold into your Wednesday. It actually looks to be a cloudier day, so I think temperatures may even be a little bit lower in the afternoon. We hit 35 today. We'll be lucky to even hit the freezing mark tomorrow. Notice that cloud deck kind of comes in from the north, and high temperatures are only in the upper 20s, 30 degrees here in D.C. And nothing really changes. So we're going to go from well below normal to more well below normal. Thursday will be our coldest day yet. Friday still very chilly, and into the weekend, this is when we're tracking a chance for some additional snow. It will definitely be cold enough as we are in the tundra here. This is the European model, which shows a storm system coming out of the Gulf that never fully intensifies, never really becomes a low pressure system that would deliver a big hit, but enough of an open wave to bring us a dusting to an inch or two of snow Friday night into Saturday. The American model, a little bit stronger, a little bit juicier, and could bring several inches of snow if this is realized. But by several, we mean 2, maybe 3, as the storm kind of pushes off the coast very quickly on Saturday. So stay very tuned to that forecast as we get closer. Right now, the models have snow, but no one really has a big hit like we saw yesterday, where we got up to a foot of snow in Calvert County. Either way, it will be a cold weekend, and nothing's changing on that 7-day, as you see lows in the teens Thursday and Friday, and again next week, still below normal temperatures. That is your 7-day. Kenneth, back over to you.
Caitlin, thank you. And the weather's still impacting Metro buses across the area. Metro is still operating under a severe snow plan. That's limiting the number of buses in service to less than half. But more have been put back in service throughout the day. Metro Rail continues to run as normal. You can find the latest updates at fox5dc.com. Meanwhile, Metro will no longer service 8 P12 bus stops in Prince George's County. WMATA says the change is due to a cease and desist demand letter from the owner of the Forest Hill apartment